Hi you guys, welcome back to the channel for those of you who are returning. If you are new here visiting for the first time, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Anita with Anita by Design, and here on my channel you will find step-by-step, very detailed sew-alongs and tutorials to help you with your sewing projects. Today we are completing a skirt series called Sewing Skirts with Anita, and we are sewing skirt number 4, the final skirt in the series. I'm also announcing the winner of my exclusive giveaway for those who are part of my private email community. If you're part of that community, then keep watching because I will be announcing who won the $50 gift certificate to fabric.com. Now, all the other skirts that we are sewing, that we have sewn in this series, are linked in the description box below. If you are a beginner, if you've never sewn anything before, or if you're very new and not sure how to perform all of the different techniques, then I'm going to recommend that you check out my beginner's sewing course here on my YouTube channel. And that way you can learn all of the sewing techniques. I walk you step by step through the process of learning to sew, and then come back here and join us in sewing this skirt. Today we're going to be sewing skirt or new look 6106, which is an A-line skirt. I'm going to be sewing view A without the ribbon, and there are two other views, B and C. There are a few differences between the different views. Views B and C have optional buttons. You don't have to use the buttons if you don't want. And then view B has a contrasting band at the bottom of the skirt. Views A and C have 6 pieces, and view B has 8 pieces. Regarding fabric, check the back of your pattern envelope. There are lots of options for your fabric choices. I'm going to be using a linen look, a linen blend, and I will link to the fabric in the description box below. Make sure you pre-treat your fabric before starting your project. If you are purchasing your fabric in store, then you'll find the care instructions on the end of the bolt that the fabric is wrapped around. If you are purchasing online, then you should be able to find the care instructions within the description of the fabric that you are choosing. Make sure that you purchase your notions. Everything that you need is on the back of your envelope. I will be inserting an invisible zipper. The instructions call for a regular zipper, and they're doing a lapped zipper instruction. I will not be doing that. I'm performing an invisible zipper instruction. If you want to go with the lapped zipper, then you can follow the instructions from the pattern guide. Also, I will not be inserting a hook and eye. I will be installing my zipper up to the top of the waistband. So you can follow me in doing that, or you can use or insert a hook and eye. I will not be following the instructions in the order that they're given on the pattern guide sheet. For those of you who've been following my sew-alongs for a while, you know that I skip around, I eliminate some steps, I add different steps, and I do prep work at the beginning of my projects. So just wanted to mention that if you're sewing with me for the first time, not to be alarmed. I do not follow the instructions in the order that they're given. I think that is it. Yes, we are ready to sew, so let's get started. Okay, before we get into the prep work, I want to bring your attention to the pattern piece number 1, which is the skirt front. There is a misprint on my pattern piece. I don't know if this is the case for all of the pattern pieces that have been printed, but the measurement, the finished garment measurement, is listed as a bust measurement. This is not a bust measurement. This is a skirt piece. This is the hip measurement, the finished hip measurement. So if you are sewing a size 10, then the finished hip measurement for this skirt will be 42 inches, and that will include approximately 7.5 inches of ease. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention just in case you noticed it and got confused. All right, now for the prep work. First, I interfaced the waistband pieces, the 2 back pieces and 1 front piece. So make sure that you interface your pieces. Then we will take care of stay stitching. This is the skirt front. and you will stay stitch, which is a regular stitch going toward the center of the skirt. So you want to start on one edge, half an inch in from this top edge, and sew from this edge all the way to the center. Then you're going to turn it over and sew from the other edge to the center. Then you're going to stay stitch the front yoke and pocket, and you're going to stay stitch toward the curved edge of the pocket. So start on this edge and stitch toward the curved edge. And then you will finish off, if you choose, you can finish off the raw edge of your pocket piece. I finished off my raw edges on both pocket pieces because I want those to have a nice finish, and it's easier to do that before inserting the pieces onto the skirt. For the skirt back, before you sew in your dart, you're going to stay stitch from the side edge of the skirt toward the center back. Then after you have done that, you will go ahead and sew in your dart. And after you sew in your dart, you want to go to your pressing station and press it toward the center back of the skirt. Now you will notice I have interfaced the zipper area for my skirt, and this is to stabilize that area. And I cut a strip of interfacing 6 inches long and 3/4 of an inch wide. And then I interfaced from the notch that we cut into our skirt up to the top edge of the skirt. And I have finished off the raw edge of my center back on the back skirt pieces because I like to have that finished for the zipper area. We're going to pin our waistband pieces together, the fronts to the back, by matching the notches and pinning into place on both sides. Then we're going to go to the machine and sew in the stitch. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, then you're going to go to the pressing station and you're going to press your seam allowances flat on both sides. Okay, after you are done pressing your seams open, this is what it should look like on your waistband. You're also going to prepare a waistband facing, and you're going to sew the facing together the same way you sewed the waistband, but on your facing, you're going to fold up half an inch along the curved edge of the waistband facing where the notches are, and you're going to press that into place. And then you'll set this aside until we insert the waistband onto the skirt. Now we're going to attach the pocket facing to the skirt front here at the curve. So take your pocket facing, the skirt is facing with the right side up, and we're going to take the pocket facing and place it with the right side down so that the right sides are facing each other, and making sure that your notches are lined up, pin that into place. Making sure your raw edges are even. Then we'll go to the machine and sew a straight stitch around the curve. Okay, I'm starting from the top edge of the skirt at the waist. And slow it down as you go around that curve, and use your fingers to manipulate the fabric on the curve. Okay, now we're going to layer the seam allowances. And what that means is we're going to cut one seam allowance shorter than the other. So I'm going to start with this one closest to us, and I'm going to cut it down to about maybe 1/4 of an inch. And if you need to measure that off, you can do that before you start cutting. Then the next seam I'm going to cut down to maybe 1/2 inch so that it's a little bit longer than this first seam allowance. And the reason we do this is to prevent bulkiness in the seam allowance, within the seam allowances, because when we turn this pocket facing inside, we don't want to see that bulkiness when we press it. We don't want to see, let me trim this down a little bit more. I got uneven there. We don't want to see the bulky seams on the outside of the skirt after we press the facing. Okay? Then you're going to go to the pressing station, and you're going to turn this facing out. On the wrong side, you're going to turn that facing out, and you're going to press your seam toward the facing, okay? All the way around, press the seam toward the facing, and then you're going to turn it in you're going to turn the facing into the wrong side of the skirt, and you're going to press that in place so that that seam is right on the edge. Okay, so when you're finished, you should have your facing like this. You should have a nice finished pressed edge along the side of the skirt. Okay. After you're done pressing the facing to the inside of the skirt, this is what it should look like. You should have a nice clean edge with that seam right along the edge of the fold. And when you turn it to the right side, this is what you should have. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to top stitch right along this curved edge 1/4 of an inch away from the fold. Okay, I have attached my 1/4 inch foot on my Baby Lock Soprano. If you don't have one, just use your 1/4 inch seam line marking on your needle plate. Slow it down around the curve just to make sure that you're staying even with that folded edge. And making sure that you're right along that edge. Okay, now we're going to attach the yoke front and pocket to the facing. This is the yoke front and pocket. We're going to place it with the right sides facing each other, lining up the edges. Okay, and then we're going to pin those two pieces together. It's separate from the skirt. Don't pin this pocket to the skirt. Okay. Then we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew a stitch all the way around. I'm starting at the bottom edge of my pocket. And just take your time around the curve and just use your hands to turn the fabric. And slow it down as much as you need to. After you've sewn the yoke and pocket facing onto the skirt, this is what it should look like. Then we're going to go to the machine and insert a basting stitch right across the top and the side here to hold this down. So go ahead and pin those areas and let's go to the machine. Okay, I'm going to start my basting stitch right where the pocket ends underneath. And I'm going to baste at 1/2 inch from the raw edge. And then I'm going to finish over here where the finished edge is. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the side. I'm going to start just before that finished edge. Uh-oh, let me move it over a little bit. And I'm going to go all the way down to where the pocket ends. Okay, we're going to prepare the skirt back. So grab your 2 skirt back pieces and place them with the right sides facing each other at the center back, making sure that your raw edges are even, and then just pin into place. Now I'm going to insert a pin about 1/2 inch down from where the interfacing ends, and this is where we're going to stop our stitching for the zipper. Now you will notice usually when I insert an invisible zipper, I sew from the bottom of the skirt up to the point where we're going to place the zipper stop, and then I baste the zipper area closed. I'm not going to be doing that this time because we will be inserting the waistband onto the skirt before applying the zipper. So this time we're going to actually stop right here, 1/2 inch down from the interfacing. So let's go to the machine. I'm starting at the bottom edge of my skirt. Okay, then you want to go to the pressing station and press your seam allowance open. You want to press it flat and use your seam gauge to measure over 5/8 of an inch and fold the rest of the seam allowance open. Okay, now we're going to attach the skirt front and back together at the side seams. So take your skirt back and you're going to place it face down onto the skirt front. Starting with the notches, we're going to line those up and pin into place. Then I'm going to pin at the waist. Then down at the hem. And then you can go in between and insert as many pins as you need. Then we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew a straight stitch from the bottom of the skirt all the way up to the top. Make sure that your pocket is lying flat underneath the fabric or underneath the skirt. Okay, then you're going to go to your pressing station. Actually, you can finish off the raw edges first. I'm going to serge my raw edges together. You can do that or use whichever method you desire, and then go to your pressing station, and you're going to press your seam allowance to the back of your skirt. Okay, after we have sewn the skirt front and back together, this is what it will look like. This is the side seam, and I've pressed the seam allowance toward the back of the skirt. Then I went and finished off the raw edge at the bottom of the skirt and pressed up 5/8 of an inch all the way around. Okay, so this is what it should look like, and on the back you should have pressed your seam allowances open below the opening, and then fold over, or you should have folded over 5/8 of an inch and pressed that into place. Okay, now we are ready to attach our waistband. Okay, make sure that your skirt is turned with the right sides facing out. And then for your waistband, this is a step that I forgot to mention in the prep work. After you have sewn the waistband together, you're going to take both of your short ends and fold over 5/8 of an inch and press that into place. Then you're going to attach the waistband to your skirt on the long or the curved edge, the outer curved edge, and that's the edge that has the notches. So let's turn this skirt over to the front, and then we're going to take our waistband, and we have the 2 notches on the skirt front and then the 2 notches on the waistband. We're going to line those up and pin into place. After you interface your waistband, you can clip through. Again, I didn't clip through, but I can see my notches on the outer, on the fashion fabric. But you can, after you interface, go ahead and clip through so that you can see yours better. Okay, after we match the notches, then I'm going to go over to the side seams and pin. Then I'm going to go to the back edge, and I'm going to open out the fold on the skirt and on the waistband and pin that together. Then you can go back in between and pin the remainder of the waistband to the skirt. And you're going to be sewing on a curve, so just take your time. Next, you're going to layer your seams just like we did earlier. You're going to press your seam allowance. Okay, we have attached our waistband, and that looks really nice. Next, we're going to insert the zipper. So I'm going to open out the seam allowance on one side, and I'm going to take my zipper, and I'm going to place the right side of the zipper face down. And I'm going to be attaching this side of the zipper tape to the seam allowance on this side, and I'm placing the teeth of the zipper along the fold. I'm going to pin that into place, and I'll continue pinning down the length of the zipper, making sure that the zipper teeth are right along the fold of the zipper. Or I'm sorry, along the fold of the fabric. Make sure that your zipper teeth are right along the fold on the fabric. Okay. Then we're going to go to the sewing machine. I have attached the zipper foot that came with my Baby Lock Soprano. I'm going to begin and end with a back stitch and sew down as far as I can go. And that's as far as I can go. I'm going to back stitch. Okay, then we're going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. Okay, the zipper is inserted, but we need to close up the opening here. So I'm going to close up the seam allowances and move the zipper tape out of the way. Now, if you would rather hand sew this stitch into place, you can totally do that. I choose to do it by machine. I'm going to use my hand wheel to make sure I'm catching right where the stitches are. Okay, and then we're just going to sew up to the other line of stitching. And I'm going to make sure that my zipper tape is out of the way and that I've got that seam allowance closed down. Okay, I'm going to back stitch. Okay, and there you can see that the new line of stitching is just behind the original line of stitching. So let's turn it right side out and take a look. This is where the zipper ends, the zipper stop, and this is where we closed up the stitching. Not bad at all. Okay? Now we're going to attach the waistband facing to our waistband. Okay, now that we have our zipper installed, we want to pin our waistband facing to the waistband on the skirt, and you're going to pin it all the way around. First, you're going to open out your seam allowance on both the waistband and your waistband facing and pin that into place. And then just continue pinning at the side seams and all the way around the skirt. Then we're going to go to the machine and insert a 5/8 inch seam all the way around. Okay, now you're going to go to your pressing station, and you're going to trim your seam allowance. I have a very large seam allowance, as you can see, because I messed up on my zipper, and because I do not want to take the zipper out and redo it, I just decided to fix it by going deeper on the seam allowance. Okay, go ahead and trim off your seam allowances by grading them, and then go to your pressing station and do the same thing you did with when you attach the waistband to the skirt. Go ahead and press your seam allowance toward the facing and then turn it over, and you're going to press this fold, making sure that that seam is right along the edge of the fold. After you have pressed your seam allowance toward the waistband facing, we're going to turn it over to the right side and we're going to understitch. Make sure that your seam allowance is over to the right, that you can feel it under the waistband facing as we understitch. Next, we're going to fold in the end where the zipper is attached, and we're going to fold over the waistband. And at this point, we're going to stitch in the ditch. So when you fold over your waistband, pin it into place, making sure that the fold on the waistband facing is extending past the stitches, the seam where we attach the waistband to the skirt. Make sure that your waistband facing is extending past that, so that when you turn it over to the right side, you can feel the edge. And then we're going to go around and pin into place, and then we're going to stitch from the right side. Okay, I'll be using my edge joining foot, which is an accessory for the Baby Lock Soprano, to stitch in the ditch. And what I'm going to do is make sure that this little black guide lines up right along that seam line. If you don't have an edge joining foot, then you can use your regular foot, your all-purpose foot. Just make sure that your needle is stitching right in that seam. Okay? And as I sew, I'm making sure that I can feel the waistband facing on the underside. Okay, there we go. Go around your skirt and clean up all the loose threads. Give it one good press, and we are done. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more like this, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. And when you do, make sure that you hit the little bell to the right side of the subscribe button, so that you will receive notifications when new content is posted here to my YouTube channel. If you'd like to be part of my private email community, then there is a link in the description box below that will take you over to that page where you can find out what the benefits are for being part of the community. And then maybe you can be part of my next exclusive giveaway. Now I am ready to announce the winner of our exclusive giveaway, a $50 gift certificate to Fabric.com. And the winner is... Congratulations, and thank you so much for being part of my private email community. I will be contacting you via email to make arrangements to get your prize to you. Until next time, remember, when you live in your design, it is from there that God shines. That means when you live according to the way that you have been created, it is from that place that God will use you to bless other people. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Thank you.